to another edition of the Interactive Interview on the interactiveinterview.com as we're joined here today with Vince Russo. Vince, how you doing?
I'm doing fine.
It's great to have you on. First things first, we saw that you have a new website up. Would you like to plug that right away?
Absolutely. I do have a new website, and it is a Christian website that I'm very excited about, and I'm very blessed that it's up, and it is VinceRussoForgiven.com. And, anybody that would like to come in, we'd love to have you there.
Absolutely. We had these questions down the line, but we'll ask you now, if you don't mind talking about it. What led to you finding religion and finding God?
Well, you know what? I'm glad you asked that, and I'm glad you phrased it in that way, because I think there's a misconception of people finding religion and finding God. I think the misconception is that God finds you. And God found me, and I think, I really believe I experienced something that, many of us will experience sometime in our lives, and, that's basically when I came to the end of myself, and when I came to the end of my road, and, I came to the realization, at 42 years old, that I couldn't do it on my own anymore, because I had been on a journey for 42 years, and I was very successful, and I made more money than I ever dreamed of in the wrestling business. A beautiful wife. I've got 3 great kids, but at 42 years old, I was miserable, and I was depressed, and I was unhappy, and at that point in my life, I just couldn't accept that this is what it was all about, and that this is what life was all about. And it was really when I reached that point in my life, which I really think was the end of, my line, that God came to me, and, he made sure that I listened to what he had to say. So, it wasn't something at all that I was out there seeking. I mean, not at all. It was just a life change, and, when God came calling, quite frankly, I didn't have much say in the matter.
Absolutely. Well, we usually go in a chronological order, so we're just going to throw the first question to you, or the first question in order to you being, were you a wrestling fan growing up?
Oh, absolutely. I was a wrestling fan growing up, but, one thing I always like to say, and I always like to get straight, is the first time I ever saw wrestling, the very first time, I immediately was attracted to the entertainment aspect of it. Even when I was very young, when I first saw it, probably, about 12 years old or something like that, nobody had to tell me that wrestling was fake. For some reason, it was just quite obvious to me. But
right.
The one thing that attracted me to it was just the entertainment aspect of it. And, some of those early people that I was attracted to at the beginning, I remember the first people I ever saw were the Valiant Brothers.
Absolutely.
And you talk about entertaining. And, some of my other favorites back then was, the Big Cat Ernie Ladd and, Chief Jay Strongbow. And, from day one, I always looked at wrestling from the entertainment aspect, and that's what got me interested in it.
The first time I ever got a chance to see you on TV was on a show called The Live Wire. You were Vic Venom back then, and you did Live Wire. That show seemed to be way before its time. How did you enjoy being the on-air heel commentator role at that point?
Well, I liked it, but I'll tell you what wasn't easy. It was ahead of its time. And, there were, I hate to use the word shoot, but let's just say when I was on that show, I was being honest about a lot of things. And what made it difficult is there were a couple of times when I did the show when Vince McMahon was in the studio. And, I was really going out on the limb here because, this is when, we still had characters and everything was very much kayfabe, and, the attitude, hadn't started yet. And, here I was, on this show, kind of shooting straight with the fans and telling the fans, what was really happening. And I knew I was taking a chance because, Vince was there. But, I really had a belief, even back then, that this was the route, the business needed to go in order to survive. And, I really believe that in my heart, so that's basically why I stuck to that, because I really felt that at that point the business needed to be going to that next level.
Where did the name Vic Venom come from?
Well, Vic Venom, before Vic Venom, I had a radio show, and I was Vicious Vincent. So Vic Venom was kind of a spin-off of Vicious Vincent. They were pretty much one and the same.
How did you actually end up going, basically from working for the WWF magazines into being involved in the creative side?
Well, I'll be honest with you. When I was writing for the WWF magazine, I hated the product. I thought the product at that time was atrocious. And we're talking about a time, and this isn't anything against the individuals. Not at all, so please don't. I don't want anybody to take that out of context. But, this is when there were characters, like T.L. Hopper and the Goon and Freddie Joe Floyd.
How about Mantar?
Mantar, right?
Right.
And the thing is, again, it's nothing against those individuals at all, but it was almost like time was passing the WWF by. They were still in a period that society was way past. So basically what I started doing in the magazine was I kind of started creating my own angles, just to keep me interested. And, I created my own angles, and, we went more to the shoot side of it. We went to the Raw magazine. And, I'll be honest, again, it was just really taking a chance because I loved the business, and I really believed that this is where the business needed to go. So again, it was taking a chance. It was doing something different, and from there, I guess my reputation from the magazine and the magazine being different and whatnot, I finally caught the attention of Vince, and once Vince gave me that opportunity to work with him, the rest is just pretty much history.
Now, when people think of Vince Russo, quite often they think of basically you bringing to the table for WWE a lot of things that hadn't been brought to the product before. And a lot of people, when they think of the influx of divas and swearing to the product, they think of you. Would you say that maybe those assumptions are correct?
Yeah, they are. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not proud of that today. Being a Christian today, my views on things are 180. I would not do those same things today. But as far as the violence and the sexuality and the language, and I take responsibility for that. I don't point the finger at anybody else, but what people, what's difficult for wrestling fans to understand is wrestling is a business. Vince McMahon was my boss. So my job was to get him the highest ratings that I possibly could. And I knew what the people were into. I knew what the kids were into. I knew what people were going to watch. And like I said, even though today I wouldn't go that route, back then, I had a job to do, and my job was to get the highest ratings possible. And, quite frankly, I was going to try to get those ratings by any means necessary.
There was an angle that was done that Bob Ryder wrote an article about, and I know it got under your skin at the time, with the crucifixion scene with the Stone Cold Steve Austin. Given what you just said, and I think you may have just answered the question anyway, do you have any regrets about that at all, and do you still stand by...
I hate to interrupt, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I regret that more than anything. More than anything I was responsible for, or I wrote and I did, I regret the crucifixion, scene with Taker and Austin more than anything else. But the reality of the situation is, at that point, I didn't understand the crucifixion. I didn't know who Jesus Christ was. And at that point, it meant nothing to me. Absolutely nothing. I didn't think twice. But, today, being a Christian and being saved and studying the life of Jesus and, sitting there and watching the Passion, I'm ashamed I'm ashamed that I was responsible for that. I mean, and that is probably the thing that I no doubt regret the most.
Here's a question coming in from the forums, and it's a big fan of yours. He wanted us to let you know that you're actually his hero. He wanted us to ask you this question, and it's pretty blanket, but it's going to take us to the end of your WWF days, and that is, given all the angles you did with the WWF, did you have any that was your favorite and any that was your least favorite?
Well, my favorite by far, and I think this would surprise a lot of people, my favorite was the Rock heel turn at the Survivor Series. And the reason why I say that is because that one incident, that one night at the Survivor